Hello, college football fans. Alonzo Jones here with Zono Sports, and I am excited to celebrate and discuss the kickoff of college football season. There's so much on the card this weekend for Labor Day. However, the big matchup down in Atlanta that everybody's talking about, the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl kickoff game between the Alabama Crimson Tide, number 1, right? And then the number 14 Miami Hurricanes. Now, while you're watching that game, make sure that you stay engaged, interact. Make sure that you check out the Kickoff Fanplay web-based platform. It's on your mobile device, right? It's on your phone. It's on your mobile device. You can go on there. It's simple to use. You use your QR code and your link, and then also it extends the fan experience beyond just the game. You can interact with it before the game, during the game, by doing polling, talking about what your team is doing, why they're so successful, why they're going to win the game. Have a little smack talk. Have fun with other fans. Engage with other fans. You can use it for that. And then after the game, post-game, you can also play a number of arcade-themed kickoff games as well. So make sure while you're watching the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl that you're playing on the Kickoff Fanplay app, okay? The Fanplay app. Make sure you check it out, okay? Now, the one thing I'll say about this game that's very interesting, it's going to be a great game. We've got two competitive teams in this one. We've got Alabama, the well-known juggernaut, right, from Tuscaloosa. They're going to march their way down to Atlanta and take on the Miami Hurricanes. Manny Diaz and the Fighting Miami Hurricanes, right? Albert, the mascot. What's going to happen to Mr. Albert, Alabama's mascot? What's going to happen to Sebastian, the old Miami mascot? You know, the bird. You guys got to know these names, right? So when I look at this matchup on paper, everybody looks at it and says, Alabama, they've been number 1 so long, right? They've been at the top of Mount Everest for quite some time as it pertains to college football. Nick Saban's always had the boys rolling. They lose a Heisman Trophy winner in Devontae Smith that played for them last year, as well as a dynamic returner, Jalen Waddle, who's playing for the Dolphins now. Maybe he'll show up at the game. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, he probably sees some of the Miami Hurricanes around town and says, you know, those Bama boys going to get it done on the 6th of Labor Day or whatever they play. I really think this will be a competitive matchup in the first half, potentially, just because of the juice surrounding the game. It's not a home game for Miami, but it is a chance for them to be back on the national stage. Everybody remembers that 02-01 Miami dynasty with the Ed Reeds and the Sean Taylors, but this ain't that Miami team. And I'm curious to see if old Bryce Young, Mr. NIL, getting all the endorsements from across the country, from whoever, just because they passed that NIL name, image, likeness rule where kids can now get paid for their name, image, and likeness and still pay the college sport of their choice and not be penalized and be suspended or have awards taken away. Give Reggie Bush that trophy back, right? But I'm wondering how this Miami defense will fare against Bryce Young, right? The name, image, likeness guy, the $1 million man. I'm wondering how he fares in this game against that defense because we've seen Miami be leaky in the past, right? We've seen the Hurricanes get ran through and gashed. They haven't been that Miami defense of old the past couple seasons. But in Atlanta, I wonder, does that come to fruition this time? Can Bryce Young, the freshman quarterback who hasn't gotten a lot of reps, he's seen some game action, but he's following up Mac Jones, who's about to start for the Patriots, following up that type of season. I wonder how he steps in for Bama. You don't have Devontae Smith and Waddle. You still have Michi, a third receiver who got the ball a lot last year. You still have Michi who can catch you some passes. But they're going to have to rely on that run game, Alabama is, just to take a little bit of pressure off Bryce Young, because if he doesn't perform well, I wonder how that name, image, likeness persona that he's garnered throughout the past couple weeks because of the deals that he signed, I wonder if that bothers him. They're like, hey, you're not performing well. He starts thinking about those endorsements. How does that help Miami? Manny Diaz and this defense. Manny Diaz has tried to resurrect this program for quite some time. They've got De'Aaron King back from a torn ACL. De'Aaron King, the dynamic quarterback from Houston, transferred to Miami, played one season for them last year, tore his ACL last October, but he is back. He's ready. He says he's ready to go. I'm wondering how the knee will hold up against a tough Alabama defense in Atlanta, against a feisty Crimson Tide defense. But I think De'Aaron King has enough athleticism, and if he is in fact healed, he can make enough plays. I watched the game with him playing for Houston against Oklahoma a few years ago, and he was the only guy that showed out. And Dana Holgorsen was okay with him transferring and opting out because he knew that this guy has serious talent that he wants to display on a national stage, which is why he transferred to Miami. So I'm curious to see, who does De'Aaron King get the ball to? Miami's weapons, you know, they're here, they're there. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. Miami's always got speed, but who can De'Aaron King really rely on? I wonder, does Manny Diaz create and put things in the offense and in that package to take pressure off of him in the run game just because he's coming back from that ACL? Do they baby his knee a little bit? I wonder about those things. This entire game, if you think about it, there's going to be two sets of fans there, right? They're going to have the Miami fans, they're going to have the Alabama fans, and in Atlanta they come together. Now make sure while you guys are together, you're on the Fanplay app, okay? Remember, simple to use. QR code link. You can click it, use your phone, open it up, and interact while the game's going on, after the game, during the game. So make sure while you're watching Alabama versus Miami, you're doing that, okay? Because this is going to be a prime time matchup in Atlanta. They'll have all the commercials, they'll have all the pageantry, but this will be a matchup that you want to stay engaged with. Not just on the TV, but on your phone too, right? On the Fanplay app. I'm going to say it again. Fanplay app, okay? Now, I look at this matchup. Two different traditions. Miami, it's all about the U. They're known for being this tough. They're the old school Bama. They're what Bama has turned itself into. Back in the 80s and the 90s, Miami was a program that was proud. They're the reason that we have all these celebration penalties, folks. If you haven't seen the U documentary on ESPN, make sure you go watch it. You'll learn a little bit about Miami's history. You'll learn why they created all these 15-yard penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, I look at this matchup. Alabama, they won the national championship last year, okay? They won it last year. Can they come back and have a repeat performance throughout the entire season of perfection? Can they come back and can they prove that that wasn't a fluke season last year just because it was COVID? Matt Jones and Devontae Smith, they were all the real deal. They didn't get the cheap route to a championship just because they didn't play as many games as some other seasons. Can Alabama live up to that hype? I think they can because they do every year. Everybody expects Bama to be right there at the end every year. But I look at what Miami's chasing. They're chasing something a little bit different. They're chasing not consistency. Alabama's chasing consistency because we expect them to be good. We're waiting for Miami. We're waiting for Miami to return to prominence in college football. So I think for them, this game is all about the respect factor. Can they come out and put on a good showing against Bryce Young and the boys? Can they stand up to that Alabama defense? Because we know Nick Saban's going to come after De'Aaron King. We know he's not going to let him just sit back there. We know he's going to have a spy on him to test that ACL when he wants to get out of the pocket and go run. We know that Nick Saban's going to have somebody with an eyeball on him, maybe two eyeballs, a Minka Fitzpatrick type guy on the back end. Now, I wonder if it is tight towards maybe early third quarter. That's a big if, because traditionally we see Alabama steamroll their opponents just before halftime, and typically the game's out of reach at the start of the third quarter. But if Miami can hang in there for just until the beginning of the third quarter, if they can keep it a one-score game or maybe a 10-point game going into the third quarter, what kind of pressure does that place upon Alabama? What happens in the stadium? What happens in that bowl in Atlanta? What happens in the Mercedes-Benz Dome? What happens? Is there magic in the air? Do fans from Miami start cheering and chanting? Does anything funny take place? Does Nick Saban, does he cough here? Does he trip there? What happens if Miami is in the game? I think if they're in the game, I do think that Manny Diaz can't afford to be conservative. He's got to get the ball, push it downfield, be aggressive. Don't play conservative against this Bama defense, because as we saw when a top team, Ohio State just played the other night. As we saw, when you're not aggressive, you just keep the ball on the ground. Yeah, you can ground and pound this, that, and the third. But when you have a team that's dynamic, explosive, and can score in 20 seconds, 1 minute, and you're wasting 6 minutes, 7-minute drives on the clock, it does not matter. You can't equalize. So Miami, if they are in the game in the beginning of the third quarter, can Manny Diaz keep his foot on the gas pedal? Because Alabama is not going to take their foot off, okay? This will be a great game to watch just because of the colors. I'm looking forward to seeing the orange and the green versus the red and the white. I think the pageantry, just the whole spirit and tradition of college football, will just be on full display in Atlanta for the Chick-Fil-A Kickoff Peach Bowl. For the Chick-Fil-A Kickoff game, the Peach Bowl game. I always confuse it because, the Peach Bowl traditionally is New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, right? Now there's these kickoff games, but just know it's the Chick-Fil-A Kickoff game, okay? So make sure that you tune in, watch it, enjoy it. I think that this game, I think early on it'll be tight, but I do honestly think that Bama will pull away. I see Bama winning the game by 3 scores or more. I mean, Alabama, who's going to stop them? They're the big bad guy in the closet. They're the monster in the woods. They're the boogeyman under the bed. Who really wants to face a Nick Saban team, even though they have turnover every single year? Isn't it amazing how they continue to bring in recruits and continue to maintain this level of excellence year after year after year? And I think it'll carry over into this year's Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Now, make sure while you're watching the Chick-fil-A kickoff game that you're staying in tune, you're staying engaged, and you're on the Fanplay app, okay? Because you can use the QR code to simply log in. You get all your information in there, engage, interact with your teams, fans, and things that are going on, games that they offer on the app. You can use it before the game, during the game, meaning you don't have to be watching the game doing it, but you could do it during halftime or something like that, even after the game. Doesn't matter. But it just enhances the overall experience, gives you access to that exclusive content that somebody would want, kind of like a virtual VIP pass to the Chick-fil-A kickoff game between Alabama and Miami. So make sure that you tune in tomorrow night. Excuse me, well, I guess we should say tonight, depending on when you're watching it. But make sure you tune in to Alabama versus Miami. And make sure that you're paying attention to the Chick-fil-A kickoff game Fanplay app, because there's going to be plenty of opportunities for you to win prizes, stay engaged, get things done, have a good time just enjoying and being a viewer and enjoying all the content that the Fanplay app has, the Fanplay web-based platform has to offer, okay? So make sure that you're using the Fanplay web-based platform to do all of that fun stuff that you want during the Chick-fil-A kickoff game virtually, okay? Because we know in these days and times, it is a virtual world. Now, I will say I appreciate you guys tuning in to this segment of the Zono Sports Show. Thank you for watching. Make sure you watch the Chick-fil-A kickoff game between Alabama and Miami, and you know that Zo knows.